Hey guys, this is Fergal from PokerVIP. Welcome to part 4 of our cash game series over on Guts Poker. So we've been incorporating various different rules throughout the set of this series. If you watch in part 4, I'm assuming that you've watched the first few parts, but if you haven't, just to give you a quick recap, we've been incorporating some basic strategy rules that we have to implement. So when I say strategy, they're not exactly good strategy, but they are still required nonetheless. So for example, in part 1 we had a 100% RFI strategy where we had to open every single unopened pot that was folded around to us. In part 2 we had a 100% 3-bet on the button strategy, and part 3 we had a 100% 3-bet from the blinds strategy facing a late position raise from either the cutoff or the button. And in part 4 what we're going to be doing now is we're going to have a 100% ISO strategy. So anytime that there is limpers in the pot and it hasn't been raised, we must raise it ourselves. So that's where we're going to be going with this. Unfortunately, right before I started recording, I got a nice, just while I was getting the table set up, we got queens in versus 10-jack offsuit, which was quite nice. This guy, he min-bet the flop. He bet really small on the turn, and then he sized up a little bit here. I'm going to go for the bluff here and try to get him to fold a 10. We do get the fold through, we definitely don't mind that. I need to get out of the habit of ever clicking auto fold because, as I said, if anyone limps, we gotta ISO. We gotta ISO from any position with any cards. So we'll see how that goes. So far, the first few parts, there have been a decent chunk of limpers throughout, so we may, if it's not really going too well, we may look to adjust it and include a 100% squeeze range as well. We'll see how it goes. And other than that though, we're going to be playing our basic game, so there will still be some strategy nuggets of wisdom, of course. We will be still getting involved in the regular spots. Just that's going to be our deviation for this session rather. So we open up, we pick up the blinds from the button. We definitely don't mind that. We're going to elect a 3-bet here from the small blind with the jack and the 9 suited. And yeah. Pocket queens again. We will be looking to play this aggressively. He's just limp called, so we're not overly concerned about the ace, but we are still going to check it back. More so because it's just going to be hard to get paid. Like, he's going to have just whiffed this board really hard, really often. So we're going to give him some opportunity to catch up. He calls very quickly. We block king queen. 10-jack is a big concern though. I think we're just going to go ahead and fold here. Pretty awkward spot facing a pot lead there. Okay, so this has been raised and called around, so I think what we are going to do is, our immediate perception of the table is that the tables aren't all that limp happy, so we're going to incorporate a 100% squeeze rule into play here as well. So anytime that there's a raise followed by a call, we're going to be squeezing because it's an incredibly powerful play. Now obviously we're going to be overusing it to an absurd degree to the point where it's not going to be profitable, but we're going to put ourselves in some interesting spots, some awkward spots, and as I said, we're going to talk you through how to sort of navigate these situations. So we get 2 callers, and they're the 2 second callers, which is very, very peculiar. So my guess is that these guys are going to have a decent chunk of pocket pairs, and they're probably not going to be folding to a single barrel here, and I don't really want to fire multiple barrels, so we're going to start this off with a check. Hopefully we can just improve to a jack. That is a very good flop for a... Oh wow, we didn't get the jack. That's a very good card for a 3-bet pot, of course, so we're going to have a wager. The reason we're betting here is because people can have pocket pairs with hearts, so we want to make sure that we're charging those. That's a pretty crappy run out for us, unfortunately. We're going to bet again here with the ace-4s, and we're going to be all in on every river that isn't a queen. Oh, I just had the ace-10 of hearts on the turn. Okay, we get raised here, which, I mean, I don't think there's anything to do but just go all in, really. If he has queens or kings, then GG. The king and the queen. No good, sir, no good. Ship it. The ace and the queen, gonna be good enough for an open, of course. So a pretty decent start to the session so far. We're up. I know this was off video, but we, like I said, literally right before we started recording, we got the double over here, and we're up to €10 over on the top left table. So up in total since we sat down at these tables, 2.5 buy-ins, which is pretty okay. Let's see if we can keep that trend alive and well. We're going to defend our blind here with the queen and the 10. We flop the toppest of the pairs. Definitely an above average flop. And we're just going to lead ourselves here. Could potentially get called by overs, especially if they have, like, you know, good shots and so on. We block queen jack, which is a good thing. We are just going to check call here, though. Try to get, like, king queen to bluff. Problem is, by checking here, we definitely lose. Like, I mean, ace highs aren't going to bluff here, I don't think. But I don't see ourselves ever folding here. He has the jack and the queen. That is upsetting. We did get lucky to outflop him, but just unfortunately we couldn't hold. The ace and the queen. Hopefully we will win ourselves a decent little pot here. Alas, he just folds pre. King 7 suited, definitely going to be defending here in the blinds. We loved seeing the 7 in the window. Unfortunately, there wasn't another good one to go along with it, but still not a bad flop at all. I'm going to check again. Not with the intention to check fold. We're just going to bet now and try to get called by ace highs. Maybe under pairs, like, you know, 3s, 4s, 5s, those kinds of hands can potentially call as well. The ace king of blue, we will be piling some pressure on here. Two ace kings on two different tables. We flop top top over on one. We will be betting it. We're going to go again and just bet, bet, bet. With the kings, we don't love seeing the Jack-Jack X board. He can definitely have some Jack-X. If he does have it, we're probably going to be losing a pretty decent pot. We're going to check this back and go for what? The queen kind of sucks. If he bets, we're just going to flat call. If he checks, we are going to bet for value ourselves, though. The queen and the jack, he got there many times against us. So we get re-raised with the aces, which is always fun. We are going to come back over the top, and he snappity snap folds. And we have the queen 4. We're going to have to go for the squeeze because there has been a raise and a call. Let's see if this one goes a little bit better than the last one. Hopefully we just get 2 folds. Not the worst of flops. We have the queen high flush draw. Let's go ahead and have a wager. We have a gut shot as well, which isn't completely meaningless. We're going to keep betting here. Mainly because he's not getting the right price to draw if he just has a lone flush draw now. If he has the ace of the king of spades, he's not getting the correct price to draw. And unfortunately, we're going to have to just go with our hand here and just do a jam. Obviously, we want the fold. Hard to imagine him having much 10x here though, and it's very difficult for him to have flop flushes, so let's hope this gets through. Nice. Heart of a lion. And again, we're in a squeeze spot, so let's go ahead with the queen and the 4. We haven't gotten any juicy squeeze spots yet. It's been Broadway rag every single time so far. This guy is limp, so we're going to have to go ahead and ISO with the 6-8. Flop a gut shot, so it's not a particularly good board. We're going to start this off with a check. It definitely connects pretty well with his limp calling range. We'll have a wager now. We're just going to bet super small here and try to get called by a single pair, maybe 2 pair. He clicks it back. I don't know if this is ever not a king, but we're going to go ahead and call it off anyway. And he just has the 8-5. My word. That is not what I was expecting to see there. That is definitely not what I was expecting to see there at all. Not to worry. Some people just really do not have fold buttons pre-flop. It's wild. Pretty trivial 3-bet here with the ace and the king, of course. Here we get the folds and we don't necessarily want them. I prefer leading here rather than check calling. Check folding when we have a pair heads up is completely out of the question. I prefer betting ourselves rather than check calling. If we check call, we're kind of just left in no man's land. We don't really define their range at all. And it just makes turns and rivers incredibly difficult to play when we don't improve. Whereas here, we protect our hand a little bit by leading this flop. When he calls, he defines his range a little bit for us, and it just allows us to play better poker on later streets, which is something I'm a huge fan of. Anything that you can do to make things, just make life easier for you further down the road is, you know, at least worth considering. Might not necessarily be optimal, but it's always worth considering. We have a limper with player 2 up in the top right table, so let's go ahead and ISO. The ace-9 we'd be ISOing here anyway, but we'd be doing it with 100% of the holdings now. So folded around to the big blind. We definitely don't want to see a re-raise come in here. If he calls, we don't hate life, we don't love it though either. We'd prefer just to see a couple of folds. This guy we definitely don't mind seeing calling though. We're going to assume he is a pretty weak player all around. We're going to unleash a few barrels here on this guy. King is a great card for us to rep, because it's very difficult for him to have hit it when he just flat calls. Okay, pretty safe board. Some potential draws out there, but reasonable board for the kings, as in there's no ace on it. 7 reduces their set combos. I'm not expecting to have much lone 7x, so we can be pretty happy to continue betting here. If he has 10x, it makes it much more difficult for him to have the winning hand, or to river the winning hand as well. We're just going to fire a third barrel here and hope to get called off, which we do. One of the downsides to the anonymous tables is that you're not actually able to check what your opponent had. So basically, there's no hand histories, so they're completely anonymous. Once you have finished the hand, it's gone forever. So it's not tracked in Hold'em Manager or Poker Tracker or any HUDs or anything like that. They're completely anonymous tables, which attracts a huge amount of recreational players from what I've seen. The standard of play for comparable limits, like I've been playing a lot of higher limits at 50NL on this network, and it's the standard of play on the anonymous tables compared to the reg tables is enormous. They're like the gap is huge for the same limit, which is just wonderful. So I'm considering moving 100% of my play over to the anonymous tables. They're that juicy. And like some of the stuff that we've seen here today, like the standard is just really not good, right? Well, I didn't want to bet there because I didn't think we were going to fold out ace or maybe even king highs, queen highs. We do probably fold out though, which is unfortunate, but not the end of the world. King and the jack off suit. We are opening in the top right table. If we get 3-bet, we're not going to be loving life. Depending on the sizing, we may see a flop though. We'll play it by ear and see how it goes. He has made it not enormously large. We're in position, let's go ahead. I would have preferred if it was this guy who was the 3-better, given that we're deeper against him. So if he goes half pot or under, we can definitely call. If he goes over half pot, we'll wait and see what his exact sizing is. When he checks, we're just going to go ahead and take the initiative and look to put him under pressure with our gut shot. He can have ace queen, but we block all other queen x. Ace king, we do block a little bit, but it's in a rough spot, and all pairs under the queen is in a rough spot as well. That isn't 6s or 9s, of course. Okay, so he check calls. This is a pretty good card for us to keep barreling on, because I would assume he is going to be betting his flush draws, so that means that we're going to have way more flush draws in our range than he does. So we're going to go again. The only problem is he can have a pair with the flush draw to go along with it. So if he has, like, say, pocket 10s with the 10 of hearts, he may have considered flat calling there. But fortunately, he went ahead and he finds the fold. Okay, we're in a squeeze spot, so let's go ahead and do that. We get one fold. Can we get a second? Let's hope we do. He's certainly thinking about it anyway. He has a decision on his hands. He finds the fold. Nice. This guy just rips it for €4. We're going to not go ahead and call you there, unfortunately, buddy. This guy goes all in again, which he does. We're snap calling him off here when we have ace queen. If this is the second hand in two that he's jammed. When people do this twice in a row, we're going to make the assumption that they're doing it quite wide. He has 7s, which kind of sucks, but let's see if we can win a flip. So basically, as I said, because he's done that twice in a row, my assumption is that he's doing it with like, you know, you just see people just start to jam every single hand, basically, just starting doing it with any 2 or at least quite wide. So having him dominated there definitely wasn't beyond the realms of possibility. And you know, we can still get it in a flip. We've been flipping quite poorly throughout this series, unfortunately. We haven't won many all-ins at all. But such is the nature of poker, unfortunately. When you get it all in, you're going to go through bad patches where you're behind EV, but that's, not the end of the world. At the end of the day, it is only €4. We're not going to stress too much about €4, that's for sure. And if you're playing poker with money that you are going to get stressed about, maybe you should consider dropping down limits, because nothing makes you play worse poker than scared money. So we've gone ahead and we've ISO'd the limper here. We're going to go ahead and just try to rep these big cards and hope we get our opponent to fold. We do not. This is very much a one and done bet, so we're just going to check and give this one up. And his ace high is good. That's really upsetting that he calls ace high on the king queen x board. Seems like a controversial call, but at least we have a bit more insight as to how this player plays, and we know how to react accordingly against him in future. So the fact that he's limp calling a7 offsuit from under the gun means that he is automatically not going to be a winning player. Like just seeing a single hand get to showdown, you can be pretty much guaranteed he's a losing player. So these are the kinds of things that you do need to be noting and kind of keeping track of. So obviously at an anonymous table it makes it that little bit more difficult, but for the rest of the session I will certainly be keeping that in mind, that we saw that this guy do that, and play accordingly against him now. So he doesn't like to fold flops. So the next step now, we're going to start putting him under pressure on later streets as well, on boards where even though he has called flop, he still may not have a hand that should be in his flop calling range, basically. Okay, let's go ahead and ISO again. Let's go size up a little bit here because we're out of position. So here, we're just going to be going 3 streets of value versus this guy here. He's proven himself to be sticky. So we don't know what he has, but like he called us down 3 streets there with worse than King 8. So going back to what I said, you know, it's just seeing that one hand get to showdown meant that I was able to play that hand much more effectively against him. Against most players, I'm never going to be going for 3 streets of value there. So that's kind of just really it illustrates my point, basically, how important it is to be taking notes. I really don't want to be ISOing this hand against this guy. This is what sucks about having these predefined strategies. Like, we have a read against this guy, and my read would indicate that this ISO is going to be a substantial losing play. But we got to do it just because I said I would, basically. So it means that we're not folding to a min bet here. But it just means that, as I said, Jesus Christ, that you know, the adjustments that I would normally be making against him are kind of counteracted by the, like, again here, the 8-3 ISO is, you know, not good. But as I said, we said we'd stick to these pre-flop strategies. We're going to stick to them. I don't imagine he's going to fold yet. He doesn't seem like the kind of player that wants to do much folding. So not surprised at all to see him call the Coles 3-bet. It's a really big shame. We don't want, we would love it if this guy wins this pot. Like, I just hope he has, like, you know, 10-9 or some sort of gammy 10. Is he going to call off? Weird that this guy didn't just go all in. Oh wow, he folded. We haven't seen him do that yet. Okay. We are going to be raising up the ace in the tray. We won't be able to call if he jams here, unfortunately. Given that we've only seen him jam twice. This is the guy who jammed against us twice in a row. We called it off with the ace queen versus with only at 7s. So the fact that he just showed up at 7s there, maybe he's not jamming as wide as we thought after we saw him do it twice in a row. So if he does go for the all in, we'll play it a little bit cautiously. But ace 3 is definitely going to be good enough to call. Or to open against him. I'm actually going to go for a very thin value bet here with the ace high. He can have a lot of gut shots and open enders that he's never planning on folding here. And he just goes for the all in, and we go for the all out. If the same card of hearts had rolled off there, I'd be pretty confident we would be able to stack him there if he had a straight. Doesn't seem like the kind of player that's ever going to be folding a straight, even when there's a potential flush out there. But yeah, juicy games over here at Guts Poker. If anyone does want to get involved in said games, the sign-up links will be within the comments section over on YouTube, or if you're watching it directly on PokerVIP, you can sign up through the deals tab there as well. Ace King of Blue. Let's see if we can get a pot brew in here now. Let's hope this guy opens and this guy calls, and then he calls our re-raise. That'd be nice. I assume he's not folding anyway. He does not. So we're in a squeeze spot, but obviously we'd be squeezing here anyway. We're going to go pretty huge here as well. We brick the flop pretty hard. I actually meant to pot this, I didn't mean to half pot it. But he folds anyway. If he folded to the single pot, he's going to be folding to the... If he folded the half pot, he's going to be folding the full pot as well, I'm sure. We're going to call with the ace-7 suited and look to see a flop. Interesting that this guy's raised. If this guy's been, yeah, like I was going to say, if this guy's in any way observant, he's going to realize that this guy's just been limping all the time. So the fact that he's actually raised is probably an indicator of strength. Like, you kind of have to be conscious that even when people are playing like 100% of their hands, if they've been limping the vast majority, when you do actually see them raise, even if it is only a min raise, it's just worth noting that, you know, it's probably going to mean a much stronger hand than the average player would have when they go for that play. So, just worth noting. We have top 2. We're just going to be going to absolute war against this guy with the bet. Not an ideal turn. We do still call off. I just hope he doesn't have the 10 jack. Oh my god, he's the 6-5. Oh, that's tilting. That is tilting. So, it's answered our question though, that like we've seen him go over that all in a lot. I've kind of suspected he's had it the other times. There, it was just kind of hard for him to have it. So. And we had just too strong a hand. Like I wanted to call and see it, but now we can again adjust our play against him and be pretty confident that when he does go all in, he just has it there basically. So I mean, even there with 2 pair, it's always going to be a tough fold, but we can be relatively confident in our reads that we should probably just be folding against this guy to those ridiculous jams. I was kind of hoping he'd be doing that with like maybe worse 2 pairs, maybe even pairs and gut shots, pairs and open enders, that sort of thing, but. Instead, he just had the goods there. Just had the goods. It's really upsetting because he's just, you know, it's never fun having that kind of player at your table when you just run into those kinds of coolers against him because, you know, in the long run, you're going to be winning so much money against them. But when they just pick up those kinds of hands, it's just really, really upsetting. I meant to make this 12 cent, but obviously it doesn't make too much difference. Again, this is a spot where I really don't like my ISO here, but as I said, given that we said we were going to stick to the strategy, I'm going to have to stick with it, but against this guy, ISOing King-Queen is not going to be much good. We're just going to bomb it here, see if we can get him to fold. He's all in, and he picks himself up another decent-sized pot against us, which is starting to frustrate me, I must say. We do have 2 pair up in the top left table, though, which is quite nice. We're going to raise against this dude and just jam on every river, basically. Oh, I didn't realize we were sitting out here. This is a mistake, of course. What have we gotten ourselves into here? This is peculiar. This is a very, very large pot for, by the way, given that it was limped in pre-I-ISO'd, this guy re-ISO'd and everyone called it off. Okay, so this is, I'd really like to see this guy get to showdown and see if he just has the 9 here. We're obviously not going to call it off with only a gut shot with overs. We're going to be going with our 10s here. So if people want to get it all in pre-flop, I will be happy to oblige. This table has been wild. He has a 7 and a 7. Your 7 and 7 is no good, sir, unless you bink on the river, but he doesn't. So we get some of our chips back. Don't mind that. Still down pretty substantially on this table, I'm pretty sure, though. But we're up on the others, so overall, I think we are definitely winning for this session. Our adjustments, our rules really screwed us over with this guy at our table here. Like, it's definitely been, because he's been the one that's been limp calling absolutely everything, and we've been dealt a lot of trash in the times when we've had to ISO against him. It's just been a really upsetting situation. But in general, we would be ISOing this guy extremely wide. It's just, as I said, we haven't really gotten that many good hands to be doing it with. But he's the sort of player that is going to be incredibly exploitable. We have the Ace Jack of Hearts, and this is going to be our last hand, so let's finish it off with a 3-bet. See if we can build up a decent sized pot and round it out with a good win. Alas, he just folds pre. So anyway, that's been me, guys. I hope you have enjoyed the series. I've definitely enjoyed making it. I think overall we're probably down money in total for it. We definitely had a pretty big losing session on parts 2 and 3. But we had winning sessions, I think, on part 1 and 4, so we're not down too much if we are down. But it's been fun making it, and hopefully you guys have learned a little bit. Obviously, we've had the usual strategy chat throughout, but it's also kind of added that extra element where we've had to stick to these rules and sort of seeing how I approach them, that kind of thing. Hopefully you found it interesting. Let me know in the comments. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to leave them. I will endeavour to get back to them as soon as possible. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I will chat to you guys soon. Take it easy.